Iga choking away an easy straight sets win. Arena negative as hell out on court while playing mid-tennis. Coco and Elena can't win matches. The WTA's Big Four ain't looking too big right now. Hey, my name is Christian Bassnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you're notified whenever I post more Cincinnati Open related content. Defending champion Coco Gauff lost her opening round match at this year's Cincinnati Open, falling in a bizarre 6-4, 2-6, 6-4 loss to Yulia Putintseva. Gauff held a 3-0 head-to-head advantage over the Kazakh heading into this match, but I still knew that Yulia would be a challenge for her. Coco has not been playing well at all this summer. She recently suffered a 4-1 loss to Diana Schneider in Toronto. Putintseva, meanwhile, she is a dangerous player and she beat the world number 1 Iga Swiatek at Wimbledon earlier in the summer. Talking about how the match went along, the first few games were utterly tragic for Coco. She was very error prone and the serve was not serving at all. It was very bad. She was a point away from going down a double break at 3-1, but her serve was actually able to get her out of trouble and she broke back eventually. When she broke back to tie us up at 4 apiece, I thought that she definitely turned things around, but Gauff started playing shaky tennis from that point forward when it came down to crunch time, and Yulia was simply too solid at the end of this first set. At 2-1, Gauff played a very good return game to break Putintseva at love, and she broke once more to seal the set. The story of that second set was really just Gauff being more consistent, and she cut her errors in almost half. The quality of the match was still in the gutter in the third set, but it was Coco who was the more solid of the two, and she had some early break look. She finally cashed in after taking advantage of some poor shot making from her opponent to break at love to go up 4-2, and I thought that it was going to be smooth sailing from there. Now, it was smooth sailing, but for Putintseva, who reeled off the last 16 of 18 points of the match to send Gauff packing in a shocking finish. It was like Coco completely collapsed there at the end, and it was really something. Her biggest Achilles heels, the serve and the forehand, they just completely deserted her, and it was utterly sad to watch. It feels like we've been witnessing a constant regression in Coco's game in the past year or so. The forehand looks as bad as it's ever been, and the serve, it wasn't completely terrible for, the earlier part of the match, but it really just deserted her completely at the end. A lot of fans have been calling for this, and at first I was a little bit weary of joining in on the discussions, but now I kind of am thinking that it's time to definitely let Brad Gilbert go. I do not think that she should have let Ryba or Jermier Jenkins leave from her team. I think those were two very good assets to her, and I think that initially Brad got all the praise, but really I think it was Pera and Jermier who were responsible for a lot of the positive changes that Coco made during that summer of 2023. I also think that Coco should not have played Toronto last week. She played 3 events of the Olympics, which were held on the clay. She was the flag bearer, and she went through a lot of emotions and just faced a lot of criticism too after that whole umpire debacle. I think that she needed to take a little bit of extra time to reset, and I think that just jumping right back into a tournament was not the right move. Coco won 3 big titles on the hard courts last summer, DC, Cincy, and the US Open, which makes up a total of 3,500 points, and she likely wanted to make up those lost points that she obviously lost not playing in DC and Canada, but it really didn't make much of a difference anyways because she lost early in Toronto and she did not even win a match here. Arena now overtakes Gauff as the new world number 2, and she will be the 2nd seed at this year's US Open. Perhaps that might take some pressure off of Coco. Maybe Coco being the world number 2 added a little bit of more pressure onto her that possibly contributed to this poor play. However, she is now more likely to face her biggest op, Iga, in the semifinals. That's if she even makes it that far. I really think that Coco should take the entire rest of the season off after the US Open. I don't even think that she should play the WTA finals. If you are physically injured, you do the same thing. And for me, this is a mental injury with Coco. I think that a lot of these mental problems that Coco is kind of going through are derived from these deep-rooted issues in her game, the serve and the forehand. And I think that, the biggest thing with her is just mental. She's not in a great mental headspace at all right now, which I think we first witnessed during the Wimbledon 4th round against Elena Rybakina. She kind of crumbled and unraveled there at the end, and it was fully evident at the Olympics. Tying that back to the serve and the forehand, we really saw Coco. She was not confident at all in her game, in her forehand, especially out there. We didn't see that at all last summer. Even though the forehand still wasn't 100%, great, she was confident in her forehand being able to last long in rallies. She's not confident at all right now. A lot of times that forehand just sprayed after 3, 4 balls. That's a big problem. Coco hurried off the court in tears after she lost, and she skipped her press conference, which of course is never a good sign. She gave a statement that she will be heading home to reset before going to New York to defend her title, which I think is a good decision. Remember, she is only 20 years old, and she has at least 10, 15 good years left in her. Serena, we have to remember too, she struggled after winning her first major in that 2000 season. So definitely, I think we should give Coco some grace. She still made 2 major semifinals, which is great for her achievements. Hopefully, she will go into this US Open without much pressure because she knows that she doesn't have as many expectations on her with her game currently low-key being in the trenches. But, she still is the defending champion and is defending a lot of points. So I think that her having like a no pressure mindset, unfortunately, is very unlikely. Now, Elena Rybakina also choked in her opening round match, but her choke was worse than Coco's as she had double match point while leading Leylah Fernandez 6-3, 6-5, 40-15. Rybakina's missed opportunities were pretty bizarre as she double faulted on both match points. Double faults were a big theme of the match for the Kazakh out there today as she hit 20 of them. I think that's definitely derived from the rust of not playing a lot of tennis. This was her first match back, in fact, since the Wimbledon semifinals. She also skipped the Paris Olympics in Toronto due to a bout with bronchitis. Like Gauff, Putintseva, this match with Rybakina and Fernandez was very bad in terms of quality as it had a whole bunch of breaks and unforced errors. But props to Leylah for staying strong in the end to seal the 3-6, 7-6, 6-4 comeback win. The victory marks Fernandez's first top 5 scalp since she reached the 2021 US Open final. Rybakina is definitely a bit concerning for me too. She should have won Wimbledon, being quite frank, and she's just frustrating because she has so much talent and she should have more big titles under her belt. I attribute this loss to her not playing a lot of matches, but that's another big problem, just her being sick every 2 weeks, it seems like. The woman just cannot stay healthy to save her life. And now when she is healthy, she suffers silly losses like the ones today, or like the one against Paulini at Roland Garros, or against Krejcikova at Wimbledon. She has not done well at the past few US Opens, so I really don't know if she enjoys those conditions. It might be a whole other Petra Kvitova situation for her, and she might suffer another early loss this year. Hopefully, though, she can have a good run because she is due for another good result. The bottom half of this women's tournament is completely wide open now with the exits of Rybakina and Gauff. Jessica Pegula and Qinwen Zhang are the only remaining seeds, and they have not even finished their second round matches. Qinwen was serving for the win against Magdalena Frech, but that match was halted due to rain. We still have some good quality players though, as the informed Paula Badosa now takes on Yulia Putintseva. Princess Diana Schneider will face fellow young lefty Fernandez. Now, speaking of lefties, shout out to Taylor Townsend for earning another top 20 win. She took down 9th seed Daria Kasatkina 6-1, 2-6, 6-1 to reach the 3rd round. It's been an awesome summer for Tay. She of course won the Wimbledon women's doubles title, but she's been killing it on the singles tour too. She impressed me a lot when she made her first WTA quarterfinal in Toronto as a lucky loser last week before she raced to Cincinnati to play her first round qualies match less than 24 hours after losing in the quarters to Emma Navarro in Canada. She of course qualified for Cincy and won 2 main draw matches to put herself in position to crack the top 50 for the very first time. In the top half, we have some very intriguing matchups. Iga Swiatek will face Marta Kostyuk. Although Marta's never won a set over Swiatek in their 2 previous affairs, I think she has a solid shot at troubling the pole, especially considering how off Iga looked after she squandered that 6-love, 5-2, 40-15 lead over Varvara Krejcikova before finishing off the French woman 6-2 in the 3rd. Below that, there's a rematch of the Roland Garros semifinals between Mira Andreeva and Jasmine Paolini. I slightly favor Mira in that one because she's impressed me thus far with her straight sets routes over Emma Navarro and Karolina Pliskova. Aryna Sabalenka had another so-so performance in her 3-4 win over Elisabetta Cocciaretto, but she'll need to bring it against Elena Svitolina next. And then at the bottom, Ludmila Samsonova will look to end slam winner slayer Elena Avedisian, who took down Bianca Andreescu and Yelena Ostapenko back-to-back. On the men's side, Yannick Sinner and Andrei Rublev are still on a collision course for a quarterfinal rematch after earning straight sets opening round victories. Rublev needs to beware, though, of wildcard Brandon Nakashima, who got solid back-to-back wins over Taylor Fritz and Arthur Fils. Alexander Zverev and Ben Shelton are likely to meet in the quarterfinals, although the 12th-seeded American needs to be wary of Fabio Matozan, who upset Grigor Dimitrov. Hubert Hurkacz will be happy with his section, as the other 3 seeds, Tommy Paul, Lorenzo Musetti, and Daniil Medvedev, all lost. However, there's still a lot of talent here with Flavio Cobolli, Francis Tiafoe, and Yuri Lehechka. Now, speaking on Hurkacz's opening round win against Yoshihito Nishioka, there was a bit of wild drama. Nishioka had an opportunity to end his 10-match losing streak against top 10 players, when he was 4 points away from defeating the 5th seed when the pair were tied at 3-all in the second set tiebreak. The 28-year-old Japanese man lost the breaker, which understandably upset him. But what set Nishioka over the edge was him being broken to go down 3-1 in the decider. He launched the ball out of Stadium 3 in anger, receiving a point penalty. Then the very next point, he did the same exact thing to get a game penalty to go down a double break. He then spent the next changeover sitting behind the court, talking in a weird exchange with his team. Nishioka later apologized to his fans for his behavior, and he said that he hopes more luck will come his way for the US Open. And then the final 4th section only has 2 men punched into the round of 16, and that's Jack Draper, who beat the 9th seed Stefano Tsitsipas, as well as Holger Rune, who downed Nuno Borges. Casper Ruud and Felix Auger-Aliassime have yet to take the court, as play was suspended due to rain, and Carlos Alcaraz and Gael Monfils were halted at 6-4, 6-all, Monfils leading 3-1 in the tiebreak. Do you think Coco will be able to pull herself together before the US Open, or will it only be a continuation of her recent struggles this summer? Also, drop some of your bold Cincinnati 3rd round, or I guess even 2nd round picks in the comments. Make sure you subscribe again and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more edgy and exciting content. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see y'all next time here on Christian's Court.